Vest and tie and military cap. Well, on the 11th was Sunday, and that was officially Veterans Day. It used to be Armistice Day. The Veterans Day landed on a Sunday, but it's observed on today, Monday. And I bet there's something that you're doing or saying that can be slightly offensive to some people who served in the service, and you don't even know you're doing it or saying it. Let's talk about that. Hey, got another hat right here. This is another type. I don't think a lot of people that are civilians know that there are a lot of different types of jobs and a lot of different types of military. People name the big ones: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and the Coast Guard. But sometimes there are units that are put together because they need jobs that are in one type of service that are not in the other type of service. One example is the Marines use medics mainly from the Navy, but there's medics in the Army as well, and they use these in the other services. So whenever they need a job, they'll bring people from different jobs and services together to form a unit of people that get the mission done because they need those jobs. Traditional Navy sailor cap here. So one other type of service are full-time and reserve time. And there's even a different time where people are active duty at reserve centers. It's interesting where people serve in the reserve that a lot of civilians will walk up to someone, they find out they served in the military, and a lot of their time could have been active duty, a lot of their time could have been in the reserve. And they look at the reserve and they use the word just. What do I mean by the word just? They said, oh, you were just in the reserve. When you talk to someone who was in the military and they served their time in the reserve and you say they were just in the reserve, that's actually very offensive. No matter how the person comes back to you, telling them they were just in the reserve of whatever unit. There's even a Marine Reserve, Army Reserve, Air Force Reserve, Navy Reserve. They're never just in the reserve, and I'm going to explain why. The military life is tough to start with. Because if you have a family, you're away from them for long periods of time, and there's a lot going on there. The reserve, almost, you have to be bipolar. Kid you not. You have to be somebody who, on the weekends, and 2 weeks a year, and I'm going to explain that, there's a lot more than that, you have to be someone who is ready and capable to perform jobs in the military or go to war, right? And you're training for this. And then while your brain is in combat mode, or what you're going to do in case of conflict, you have to turn that switch off and go back and be whatever job you do. You could be a computer person, you could be a plumber, an electrician, you could be a cop, you could be anything that you are. You go back to your civilian life, and if you have a family, you're going to be husband, mom, daughter, son, you're going to be whoever you are in your family. And then that 1 week a month comes around, you got to switch the switch back on and say, that's done. I am now a soldier, or a sailor. I'm an Air Forceman. You know, you got to turn the switch back on and go there. And to live that life all the time, back and forth, is not the only time they have to do that. I'm going to take this a step further. I'm going to educate you a little bit further about something maybe you don't recognize you're doing that is offensive. So these people that are in the reserve, and they're doing this 1 week a month and 2 weeks a year, back in the day, maybe in the 60s, that's all you had to do. You had to check in. But nowadays, because of things how they are around the world, that's serious business. They are checking in to see how you're doing and are you capable and are you ready to, at the drop of a hat, leave and go and fight for our country. In order to do that, these reservists are sent home, almost like homework. They're sent home with things to do. And you have to make sure you're physically fit, and your papers are signed, and things you do is like having your will updated, and your administrative and financial orders are prepared always, so when you're called, you can leave. Now, as a civilian, that can take a toll on a person because you're going to your 1 week in a month and your 2 weeks a year, but you're never getting that soldier mentality out of your head because while you're gone, your service and your commanding officers in your unit gave you things to do to maintain your readiness level during the month that you're gone and before you have to come back for your next 1 week in a month or 2 weeks a year. So you're going through your civilian life, working your job, with your family, your job, and social life and things you have to do. But at the same time, you have things on a checklist that you have to get done before you go back next month. And then it cycles through. Then the next month, they give you another set of checklists. So you're always balancing that soldier, sailor versus civilian world all the time. And it's a tough challenge for a lot of people. It's living two lives simultaneously. And that's not easy for a lot of people. And so when someone walks up to someone and says, oh, you were in the reserve, or you were just in the reserve, that's a hard life to live, to tell you the truth. Maybe not as much back in the 60s, but this day, that is a difficult life to live. And when you say you're just in the reserve, they're jumping over hoops and hurdles. They're getting administrative stuff done. They're doing what they can to always stay at a level where if they get called to fight for the country, they can at the drop of a dime. And to tell them they were just a reservist, that's kind of insulting. Actually, it is insulting and it's offensive. To put that word just, a reservist, it's a hard life to live nowadays in this day period. I hear from the old guys what it was like back in the day. It's not like that now. There's a lot of hoops to jump through and they're working hard to balance a life to be a soldier in civilian clothes all the time. That's what it's like now. Reservists anymore are not just reservists. Don't put the word just in there if you ever hear that someone was in the reserve. It's offensive and it's rude. And I bet you didn't know that. That's your tip for the day. This is Veterans Day observed on today, Monday. Veterans Day is actually on the 11th. And today, for those who had the day off, I hope you enjoy your day. Happy observed Veterans Day.